Hey, Broads and Books listeners, guess what? We're coming to you live on March 27th.
That's right. We are kicking off the Des Moines Book Festival with a live virtual episode.
And that means since it's virtual, you can attend from anywhere.
Literally anywhere. So come see us talk about the amazing headliners at the Book Fest and their books.
They've got a killer lineup over 4 weeks, including Tayari Jones, Taylor Jenkins Reid, Chuck Klosterman, and Laura Prescott, along with terrific workshops, talks, and events.
At our live event, you'll also get some of our favorite stories. And I mean, most likely some weird tangents.
I mean, that's what we do.
That is what we do.
It'd be disappointing if we didn't. Plus, do you have a reading question, a challenge for us perhaps? Email us your question by March 25th, and we could answer live.
So, start the Des Moines Book Fest off with a laugh and a sneak peek at the keynote authors and events at this live podcast event. And remember, this is virtual. So go ahead and wear those pajamas
Please
and sweatpants.
do.
Bring a coffee and join us online.
Remember, visit broadsandbooks.com to register, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Amy.
And I'm Erin, and this is episode number 86, Obsession.
Obsession. Do you remember this song, Erin?
I do. I had to refresh my memory after
Okay.
you suggested it.
This is by the seminal 80s band Animotion,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know another song they did. This may be what you call a one-hit wonder,
Yeah.
but what a hit it was.
It was a good one.
This is, if you are just picturing an 80s song, this is what you might picture. Like,
Yes.
it's got the whole synthesizer thing. It's got the dude and the girl. And some of the lyrics are, I will have you, I will find a way, and I will have you. I mean, that's some straight up obsession. And that's what we're talking about today. I'm thinking like obsessive behavior with people.
Yes.
With relationships, with things.
It's a topic that is rife with ideas.
Yes. You
So
know what
many
we've
possibilities.
been, an obsession that's been denied to us today, Erin?
Yeah. About that. We tried to have our superfood again today, and now randomly they're closed again. And
I just don't understand it. I don't know if they're trying to, if they know that we love them and they're actively, are they hate listening to us and they're trying to mess with us? I don't get it.
Or are they playing fickle, like a female in a relationship? They're playing hard to get.
Oh, see, I don't like
They're
that.
leaving me wanting more, and they're reading me wrong because that is not the way to
That's not
gain
the way.
my affection.
No, I need consistency. I need reliability. I need some damn acai before we record.
If I don't trust you, this ain't going nowhere.
No.
And I'm starting to not trust you. So we're not in a good place.
So listeners, we didn't get our acai today.
You'll probably tell the difference. I don't know.
We may
I
be more
apologize.
angry
Yeah.
than normal.
I apologize in advance. It's not coursing through my veins.
I mean, we're still going to be hilarious. We're still going to be
Obviously.
great.
Yeah.
But, we just won't have the manic high that you could confuse with a cocaine high
Yes.
that we, in our sort of middle age, have used acai to attain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to admit that. And I'm frustrated. So,
Erin, besides big acai, have you ever experienced an unhealthy obsession? And if you did, how'd you break yourself of it?
well, it's funny that you paralleled this to Big
To
Acai
acai,
because
yeah.
where I most often encounter obsession in my life is 2 areas.
Okay.
One, songs. I play a song I like over and over
You
and
do.
over and over and over again until A, I know all the words, and B, I'm like, I never want to hear that song again.
Yeah.
So I ruin it for myself. And then I rediscover it 6 months later and it's like a gift. I do that also with snacks where I go
Yes.
in a rut. And for a while, for me, it was veggie pot stickers, steamed, from this Chinese place that we like to get food from a lot. And I was obsessed. And when I say obsessed, I mean every time Mike said, do you want to order in? I'd be like, yes, and here's where. And he'd be like, can we have something else? And
you're
I would
like,
be like,
"No."
no, I need me some pot stickers.
Could you describe why it was so delicious and obsessive to you?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's weird about my personality. I can't. But I can tell you that I always know when it's over, because you order it, you take a bite, and you go, oh God, I can't eat those.
Oh, no.
And I am now on the backside of that obsession
Yeah.
where I'm taking a break.
Oh, okay.
So for them, I probably seem like a fickle customer because I am all in 4 months. And then I ghosted them. I'm just out.
You ghosted them.
And then I pop back up later like a booty call.
Oh, my
hey,
God.
I'll take a few pot stickers now.
You are that bad ex that
I
keeps
am.
coming back for more.
I am.
Oh, no.
And then I'm all in for a little bit. And then I'm like, oh, this got too serious too fast. podcast. Out of my life, pot stickers.
I do that same thing though with snacks, where I'm just hardcore Reese's Pieces all the time.
Yeah.
I'm in a period where I don't like them anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've done that. Like, I can think of so many things. I do that with peanut M&Ms. I'll be in it and I'll be eating peanut M&Ms like it's my job. And then I'll go almost a year and be like, I can't think about a peanut M&M.
But then when you rediscover them again, it's like when you get back together. I mean, I've never done this, but when you get back together with someone and
it's like that blissful moment where you're like, oh, this was great.
This was great.
And then
soon it will be not great again.
Yeah, soon it'll be too much. But and I recognize that this is very hard for people in my life. Like Mike, if he wants to like get me he has no idea where I'm at ever. So he'll be like, hey, look, I saw this bag of peanut M&Ms and brought them for you. And I'd be like, I'm not eating peanut M&Ms. What's wrong with you? How dare you?
Wow, just a mercurial personality.
Yeah, in snacks. Yeah.
In snacks.
And
he just can't
He's
predict
given
you.
up. Yeah, I think, which is fair.
That is fair.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll buy my own snacks because I know where my head's at. So it's fine. It's fine. Well, do you think that there's a difference between how men and women are viewed when we talk about obsession? Like, is one more negative than the other?
I say absolutely, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. 'Cause I think we've kind of talked about this before. If a guy is exhibiting obsessive behavior, we're often saying like, oh, he's seducing her. Oh, he's just sticking in for the long haul.
Yeah.
He's just really trying hard. Like, oh, he's going to win her over. Going to win her over.
Yeah.
Yes. The girl, however, she starts, exhibiting any obsessive behaviors, which is, again, a subjective thing.
Correct.
But exhibiting too much emotion, perhaps, it's full-on fatal attraction. It is a rabbit is going to die.
That is a really good point.
Yeah. It is something to be terrified of for men. Like, they get so scared of, supposedly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
whereas
we got those
when
two.
you think about it, like the stories told of us of Prince Charming, that's obsessive.
It's obsessive. And we've read enough to know that sometimes, a lot of times, you exhibit that behavior, it shows there is something very, very wrong.
It's not the guy you want.
No. Just think about Nobody's Victim and all the guys that were coming on so strong and then exhibited all sorts of like revenge porn behavior and shit. See? So yeah, I think as in a lot of things, men are accepted more than women.
I agree. That's very true.
God, I wish that wasn't true.
I do too, but it is.
But that's the world we live in,
That
Erin.
is the world we live in.
That world and the world where Reese's Pieces no longer sound good to me, which is a sad world.
You missed your window, Reese's Pieces. I'll tell you that right now. You missed your window for these hot takes. Where we would have had that money rolling in for
Rolling
you.
in.
Because if there's anything we can do, it is command the masses to eat something.
You're damn right. I like your view of our power. I don't know if I agree with it, but I think it's a great thing to aspire to anyway.
I feel like right now we could put out a challenge to be like, did anyone eat Reese's Pieces based on the amount of time we talked about it? And if so, please reach out to us. And crickets.
Crickets.
People be like, hey, we knew about Reese's Pieces long before your podcast.
And also that, that's an old thing. It's not a new snack.
And I know we didn't purposely go eat them because of what you said.
No.
Well, your loss.
Yeah, your loss. Another area that is rife for obsession is the interwebs.
Interwebs.
And man, oh man, there's a lot of rabbit holes you can fall down in the internet. What was the last rabbit hole that you followed all the way to the weird end?
It is a rabbit hole that I frequent. I'll be honest. It takes on different forms.
I see.
But it is a rabbit hole that'll get me every time. And that is a multi-level marketing scheme.
You mean reading about them?
Yes.
Not
I don't
participating in them.
Participate. Yeah. But anytime I see something on Facebook, I see an Instagram ad, I see something that someone is inviting me to a party, it just triggers the Jane Pauley in me, and I go nuts. I'm like, I got to know everything about this company. Where's this money going? Who's in charge? Why are they doing this? Who are they targeting? It's like I'm doing an expose with no audience. I have no forum for it, but I am going to find out everything, and I do not give up. And it takes me in some weird places. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I feel satisfied, and I move on. And I never say anything about it to anyone. It's not like I'm trying to change the market. I just am fascinated that people keep getting sucked in.
I fully understand that obsession. And also, I really like the image of you as a Jane Pauley, but just reporting to yourself. Like, no one's around.
Just me at my desk going, I knew it. Ha! Follow the money. Eureka! I knew he was involved. And what? Who are you talking about?
Man, I get that, though, because it is one of those things where it's just like, how do people keep falling for this? I don't get it.
Yeah.
And what is it pretending to be?
Yes.
Versus what is it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's so related to cults that explains a lot of the obsessive behavior, too.
Yeah.
'Cause we get real obsessed about that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does remind me of that. So I love the internet for that reason.
Yeah.
Which brings up a point.
Yeah.
Do you think that you could ever go back to a life where we couldn't just immediately Google things?
I don't think we could.
Right?
Like in my mind, I think we can go forward. We can't go back. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't go home again. I think you can't, we can't go back to just wondering about things and then having nowhere to go except an encyclopedia in a library. What?
Yes.
No. I used to, before, the Internet Movie Database.
Yes.
Before it became super big, some friends would call me Amy, you're like the human IMDb.
You are.
And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. However, now the IMDb is so full that it's no human is that. I have to go to IMDb all the time. And if I didn't have that,
I know.
what would I do?
Two things just happened.
Okay.
One, I did not know that IMDb is needed for Internet Movie Database.
There you go. Acronym.
Wow. I was almost ashamed to admit that. And I'm like, it just fits.
You got to go. Yeah.
And two, I just want to point out that you're like a niche IMDb for me. Because every time I bring something up, you always know the answer. So I never have to go to IMDb.
Well, I got an explanation for that. One, I don't have kids.
Well,
I mean,
okay.
So there's that. And two, those are the rabbit holes I go down.
Yeah.
When I'm watching something, I'm like, oh, that person's familiar. What are they? Who are they? Where do I know them from? What is their next project? What was their past project? What was their first project? Let's go back and see. Let's follow it all the way back.
That's what I mean, though. You have an amazing capacity for remembering actors and names and hey, isn't that person this person? I'm like, oh, you're right. That is that person. Mm-hmm. If we were at a movie studio and we were auditioning people, people would come in and you'd be like, oh, I loved you in that. And I'd be like, what? Who is this person? I thought he was bringing us coffee. Is this an actor? I would be so offensive on so many levels.
You'd be like, who are you?
Yeah. And then you would have to take me aside and be like, listen, when the talent comes in, just shut up. Because we're losing good people. Because you don't know
Because you're not
anything.
sucking up enough. You don't know who to suck up to.
Yeah.
I will tell you
the
who
guy
to suck
that
up
you
to.
complimented was the janitor. The guy that you insulted was the person we were trying to get to do the movie.
And that's no good. No. Can't do it that way.
No.
Well, don't worry. We'll be partners when we create
Okay.
something at a movie studio because
Good.
That's part of the goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just be the silent one.
Okay.
They just never know what I'm thinking.
Ooh, you'll be the inscrutable one. Uh-huh. They're like, we got to impress her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm. Impress me.
Yeah. Dance, monkey, dance.
Well, thinking about obsession.
Yes.
I don't know about you. It was pretty easy to find some picks.
So easy. I had so many choices.
Obsession is a rife topic.
It is.
There's a lot going on. I chose a book by someone that you recommended recently, Anna North. And the book is The Life and Death of Sophie Stark.
You said this was amazing.
So after you recommended Outlawed,
yes,
I read it. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh boy, here's the rabbit hole I'm going to go down. And I immediately got her back catalog. And so I read this book. This came from 2015. And it's fantastic.
Ooh.
Also, we're talking to Anna North soon.
Isn't that exciting?
So listeners, get ready for that.
Yes.
Okay, the book starts. We first meet Allison, who is a young woman new to New York. And she's at an open mic event, and she tells this story, one that's really involved, and it's about a dangerous ex, and it's very gripping. Once she comes off the stage, there's another young woman that approaches her, and this young woman's name's Sophie. And Sophie says, I don't know if that story's true, but I want to make a movie about that story, and I want you to be in the movie. And Allison's like, okay, cool. Never been an actress, never made a movie, but let's do this. So from that sudden start, we follow Allison through making that movie, creating a relationship with Sophie, a romantic relationship, and then the fallout after that movie. Because we soon see that Sophie is very determined to see her particular vision through, even if it means ruffling some feathers.
Oh.
Betraying some people.
Oh.
So we've heard from Allison. Then the next chapter, we hear from another person. And then the next chapter of that, we hear from another. We never hear from Sophie directly. We hear from people in her orbit.
Ooh.
So we hear from her brother. We hear from her husband, from a movie producer, from a guy that she followed around in college, and more. We're seeing Sophie through other people's eyes, which is such an interesting technique and so cool for this very sort of enigmatic character that we don't quite know, like where she stands on things and what her deal is on a lot of stuff. We see she's very strange, she's very awkward, but she's brilliant and super creative. Like I said, we see, though, that she may not really understand or care about boundaries. She, when she tells Allison that she wants to make a movie about her, she uses stories from the lives of those around her. And it's something she keeps doing, even when the people are like, I don't know if I want to let you use this story. So, like I said, this format's really unique. It kind of reminded me of linked short stories in a way, like Olive Kitteridge or like A Visit from the Goon Squad.
Yeah.
But it's also very much a novel with this main character and the people around her. And I chose it for this theme because I think Sophie's film career, as we learn, it starts with obsession. She follows around this basketball player at college and decides she's going to make a movie about him. And then it takes a real crazy turn, but it all starts with obsession. But Sophie follows, after that one, then she decides like this is her way of relating to the world. And so she gets obsessed with one thing after another and creates films about them. And along the way, the people who are around her, like Allison and her husband, they become obsessed with Sophie. And there's something about her that is so infuriating, but also sort of intoxicating. And you see that as you hear from these other people.
Yeah.
So I loved this. It's a really quick and propulsive read. But it's one that stays with you. I've thought about it a lot since then, which, is kind of how it was with Outlawed. Like she is a writer that is able to do that, which is very impressive.
It is. Amazing. Well, my pick this week, kind of the same thing. It just stayed with me. It's just one of those that is just kind of simmering there for a while. And it's also one of those I call like that book hole. Like you read it and then you're like, what am I going to read after this? Because I'm still there. So it's called The Push by Ashley Audrain.
Oh, you mentioned this to me. Yeah,
Yes.
you said it was intense.
It is intense. It was just published in January of this year. And it's got a lot of things going for it. So Blythe is pregnant and excited. But underneath, she's kind of dealing with all the fears that new mothers deal with. But hers, there's like an extra layer of trepidation because she comes from a long line of unavailable and abusive mothers. So she knows that she kind of has this pressure to break this pattern.
Yeah.
So she's determined to be different. She's going to be amazing. She's going to be attentive. She's going to be loving. And all the way up to the birth, she's prepared. She just seems to be reveling in the whole idea. Her husband, Fox, is very supportive, and he knows enough about her past, to kind of assuage her fears. So she goes into birth, and birth is nothing like she imagined. It's much worse than she anticipates that it's going to be. And kind of from that moment on, the bubbles burst, right? This isn't anything like she thought it was going to be. She's exhausted. The baby doesn't sleep. The baby cries all the time. Just all of the things that you feel, especially with your first child and as a new mother. And her husband's supportive to a point, as supportive as a partner that didn't go through it can be, kind of. Yeah. And she's just seeking connection. She keeps, prior to having the baby, she was writing. And so she sort of gave up her career in that time because she didn't have the ability to write really cognitively. But Fox still gets to leave the house and have his job. So they're just on different pages. And she's searching out connections. She's going to mothers groups and talking to people. She keeps trying to find someone who can say, yes, I know, doesn't this suck? Instead of, oh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. So you get the idea right away that she's thinking, a little bit differently. As the baby gets older, the fog kind of starts to lift. But this under everything feeling that she's having is that something's not quite right with her child.
Oh, shit.
And at first she's blaming herself. Like, I'm just not attaching like I should be.
Yeah.
Fox blames her. Like, no, there's nothing. Your past, this is what your past is doing to you. There's nothing wrong with our child. But she's seeing it in different places. So, and there's lots of examples in the book, like, the child will bite her on the face, even
what?
Once it's old enough to even know better. We see that Fox's mom kind of brings up some things, like, is this when she goes to school, the preschool teacher has some comments, but Fox is never willing to see it, and Blythe is sort of left going,
this is all me.
Not trusting herself because it might be in my head. I don't know. Maybe I'm not loving her enough. Maybe I'm not being a good mother like I thought I was.
Oh my God.
So they end up moving on. They have another child. And it is when their son Sam is born that Blythe realizes, no, there is actually something wrong with our daughter because our other child doesn't act this way.
Oh, wow.
From that point forward, I can't tell you anymore because the book just takes off. But it is so intense and so gripping. And when I thought of the word obsession, you have Blythe who's obsessed with being a good mother and then obsessed with the idea that there's something wrong with her child.
Yeah.
You have Fox who's obsessed with this idea that no, you're not doing it right. Our child is great. You have the idea that society is obsessed with making people feel like if you're not doing it a certain way, you're not doing it right. There's so many layers and levels here. And I think it's kind of hailed as a psychological thriller. And it is. But to me, the parts that spoke to me were not those parts. It's a great story. You're going to love it. But the parts that spoke to me were that feeling of, I have this feeling and no one else does. And I can't find someone else. And I'm not even just talking about motherhood. Even if you've never gone through that, I think everyone can relate to times where they've said, I feel this way, but I don't think anybody else in the world does.
Yeah.
And you struggle
or people are
to find,
actively telling you that you're wrong.
Yeah. And you're struggling to find a connection with someone. You're struggling to just be able to get it off your chest and say, no, this is what I'm thinking and feeling. And you feel for Blythe the whole time that she doesn't have that outlet. And you can kind of see that this isn't going a good place. So personally, my heart broke for her page after page after page. But at the same time, you have this incredibly gripping, fast-paced story that's happening that you also need to know so bad.
Oh, my God.
And when it ends, you're going to be like, what? And then you're going to be like, where's the second book? And then you're going to be like, I can never read again. Because it's so overwhelming and amazing.
Gosh.
And I loved every second of this. I hope that she writes a bajillion more books and I'll read every single one.
Is it supposed to be a series?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
You
no.
just wanted it
I
to be a
just was
series.
like, I need
you
to
were
know.
putting it out into the
Yes.
universe and hoping that she would write another.
To me, as an avid reader, one thing that I can say that I know that you've really got me at it as an author is that weeks after I finished, I'll think of those characters
Oh
and
my
go,
God.
oh yeah, those aren't real people. I can't find out what they're up to. Speaking of rabbit holes on the internet,
Yes.
like I want to go research and be like, are they okay? What happened? And I don't. They're fictional.
That's when you have to write some fan fiction.
yeah, but
So,
no one wants that.
somebody wants that. Somebody is out there trying to go down a rabbit hole, and you're going to deliver.
Yeah.
No?
I don't know. I've always felt like that kind of fan fiction when you're fulfilling it for yourself is kind of like taking pictures of babies off the internet and passing them off as your own.
Oh,
Like,
wow. That's,
look at,
yeah,
like,
that's
I wish
no
I had
good.
a kid. Yeah, like it's not really harming anyone, but there's a little creative
There's a line
license.
being crossed.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because like she, I'm sure, imagines where the characters are or intends them to
Oh,
be a
God,
certain
yeah.
way. I mean, they're her characters,
Yeah.
but I've always
Wow.
thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting behavior.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so as a mom yourself,
Yes.
did you really glom on to a few things in here?
Yeah.
And just the idea that things aren't always going to be how you expect,
Yeah.
no matter how much you plan.
Yeah. And I think that there's a disservice that, again, we as women do sometimes where we feel they need to keep up this image and we don't always care for each other in the right way, which is just to say, yeah, that ain't going to be anything like you think. Like that's not going to go well.
It feels like there is a lot of like active, almost not, I don't know if I want to say lying, but like you don't always get the facts from other women about what childbirth is like, about what motherhood is really like.
No.
You can kind of tell when people are just like, it's great.
Yeah.
And there's a dead look in the eyes.
Right. And they feel like they have something to lose. Like you're somehow not a good mom, or you don't love your kid, or you're failing if you just admit that like this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I'm sorry, but that's true for everyone that has a baby. It isn't what you think it's going to be. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means
just
that
different.
you can't predict how you're going to feel as a human, and that's what it's about. And you can't understand because it's, physiological, your hormones, all of those things. We don't talk a lot about that. We just talk about how rosy it is when they put that baby in your arms. And there are great moments about it. Absolutely. But we do a disservice that there aren't more realistic people. And it's the one, we've talked about it a bunch on the podcast. It's my biggest complaint about being a mother is other mothers that will not ever admit that it's not always roses and
Right,
sunshine.
right.
Like, it's not. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it feels like some people have to commit very, very hard and try to convince themselves. So they have to convince everyone else too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially, and now I think in this day of social media, we kind of call them Instagram moms.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look at it, and no. No. If I, in fact, I have thought about starting an Instagram account anonymously that showed the exact other side. Like,
my
here's an
God.
Instagram mom account, but this is what really happens.
Do you follow Celeste Barber on
Yes.
Instagram? Okay, it would be like that, right?
Yes.
Where you have like a beautiful model doing something weird, and then her take on it, which is an actual human body.
Yes, I
doing
love it.
things,
It's,
yeah.
it's my favorite, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what it would need to be. Yeah,
I think the world needs that.
I know. I maybe.
Yeah. So, listeners, if you see an anonymous account pop up in a few
Write
weeks,
that down.
she's writing
That's
it down.
randomly,
just random.
Supported by Broads and
Yep,
Books.
that's the one.
Anyway, you should. It's great. It's wonderful. You'll
I've
love
seen it many places, and it's weird because when it comes to books like that talk explicitly about motherhood, I wonder if I'm equipped to read it in a weird way.
yeah.
I don't want to. I don't know. Yeah, I have a feeling like, I don't know if I'll really get into it as much, or if I'll understand it as much, because there is a big experience that a lot of women have that I don't have.
But I think the way that she wrote this, it's really more about the universal feeling of having feelings that you can't place somewhere, having feelings that you can't describe to someone, or feeling alone in your feelings.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that you wouldn't relate to it or feel that way. And honestly, I think that that's true about motherhood in general. I don't really think it's a thing that, I think we do a lot of that, acting like you'll never get it because you're not a mom. Like, the
that's
mom
the thing.
shaming.
I think I have some sensitivity to that, because there have been people like that have,
Absolutely.
implied as much. Yeah.
Well, because they have a vested interest in feeling like they've done it right and they're the only people that can do it. But
yes,
I mean, I hate to break it to anyone, but evolution says we've been doing this for a while. You ain't the first one to push a baby out of your vajayjay.
that's true. There's been a lot of JJs.
Yeah, it's not a unique experience. I hate to tell you. So, it's more just about that feeling for me, and the story itself. Dear God.
Woo! I mean, even the cover is kind of evocative of something, and I'm like, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's amazing because the cover is like those ink blot drawings where you see different things, and that is such a perfect symbol for the book, because everybody's perspective on the exact same thing is different.
Oh, that's terrific.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, Erin, for other genre pick.
Ooh, okay.
We've talked about some things. I mean, obviously, we're always talking about things we're obsessed with.
Always. Yes.
Always. One thing that has been a long obsession of mine is sci-fi.
Yes.
And another thing has been David Bowie.
Okay. Uh-huh.
It's time, Erin. We haven't talked about him in a while, so I figured I was okay in bringing this to the table.
Yeah,
okay.
It's been a long time.
Again, it's that weird rule that I put on myself that I can't
It's
talk.
been a long time.
If you're new to the podcast, I have a thing with David Bowie. It is a relationship, and yes, he is dead. I don't care. Also, when he was alive, he never knew me. I don't care. It's a relationship.
We can't say that for certain. He's dead.
That's
We've
true.
never asked.
That's... Is a seance a special bonus episode that we need to do?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, why not?
We need to bring Heath in on that one. He'll enjoy that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think just us might not be enough. Yeah.
All that to say, I brought a nonfiction pick.
Uh-huh.
It is called Strange Stars, David Bowie, Pop Music, and the Decade Sci-Fi Exploded.
Ooh.
It's from Jason Heller, and this came out in 2018. And this is about the 1970s in music and how many, many artists, including David Bowie, channeled these ideas of science fiction into their music. Mm-hmm. And David Bowie and many others, but especially him, were on record about how much they loved classic sci-fi. If those of you who have listened for a long time, I recommended a book called Bowie's Bookshelf at one point, where he recommends like 100 books that changed his life, and a lot of them are sci-fi. He was very interested in that idea of other worlds and futuristic kind of stuff. So the book starts in 1969 when David Bowie releases his song Space Oddity, which is about an astronaut that gets lost in space. And it came out around the time of the first astronauts on the moon, which made a huge impact, of course, on millions of people who started to see how things that used to be maybe sci-fi had become reality. So that made some musical artists optimistic, and they write optimistic songs. That made a lot of musical artists pessimistic and talk about how we're going to destroy ourselves on this planet and destroy anything out in space.
Fair.
So a fair assumption. So through the book, Heller talks about a lot of different bands and how they incorporated sci-fi into their stuff. Like some just put things on their covers. Queen put spaceships and robots and distant planets on their album covers. Bands like Kraftwerk and Devo created these sort of space-infused rock songs. Funk pioneers like George Clinton and Bootsy Collins devised the P-Funk Mothership after sighting a UFO while fishing on acid in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. But also bands that aren't necessarily associated so much with this, like Crosby, Stills and Nash, or the Carpenters, or even Stevie Wonder. They got on the sci-fi train during this time. I discovered some songs that I've known and loved that I never knew were actually like about sci-fi. Like there's a song Wooden Ships by Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Yeah.
It's all about like a desolate planet and dystopia kind of thing. And I was like,
Really?
oh, huh. So I never really knew the lyrics. So the book takes us through the 1970s and it ends with Bowie again, because in 1980 he came out with the song Ashes to Ashes, which sort of revisits Space Oddity from 1969. So I chose it for this theme because I think, not just me, I think sci-fi is a very obsessive genre in and of itself. Like when people really like sci-fi, they really like sci-fi. There's a reason why there's all these, conferences and Comic-Cons and all that kind of stuff. It's very sort of set up in a way that brings obsessive, love and obsessive behavior, perhaps. I think the same thing with music. As I have gone on record, I am very obsessive about music. My book coming out, all the stories are named after song titles. It is an obsession.
Yes.
So put them together and boom.
This was bound to be.
Double obsession. But beyond that, I think the 1970s in and of themselves is a very interesting decade to look at, because suddenly, the world is bigger, but also smaller. Like we can see that, yes, there's this world out in space, but also, oh shit, that makes us really, really small. And like, what does that mean for us?
Okay.
It's also a time of huge social shifts. Like that's when we as women were starting to get some independence and some power, and the world's freaking out about that because, of course.
Yeah.
I think generally you do not have to love sci-fi or David Bowie to read this book. If you do, great. If you don't, if you're just interested in history and a unique take on history, this is a great read. But yeah, if you're curious about that connection, man, you're going to love this, just like me. And I got to bring up David Bowie again.
I'm a little bit ashamed of myself that in an episode about obsession, I didn't see that coming. But it has been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It was time.
Yeah.
To bring him back.
I restricted myself again for weird reasons.
Your own rules.
Because once I start talking about it, it can be difficult to stop. And also when I start talking about it, I can see the look on your face where it's just like, oh no. And like your eyes glass over and you're like, oh, okay. Like, do I have to contribute to that, or is she just going to talk for an hour?
Well, yeah, okay. That's fair. But also, I think that I'm also waiting because when you say David Bowie, then we're going to go through like a 5-minute justification about why it's okay to bring it up. Yeah. And I'm like, we're all there.
Like,
it's okay.
We don't need to do that. Yeah.
It's okay.
I shortened it this time.
Yeah.
Sort of.
To be fair, if someone listened from beginning our first episode through now, they would think that you like Reese's Pieces more than David Bowie.
That's true. Oh, I've done you listeners a disservice.
Yeah, I think we're not at the same level yet.
Reese's Pieces are low on the scale.
Yeah.
David Bowie is high on the scale.
That's what I'm saying. You're limiting yourself more than I even think is necessary.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like I need to talk about it as much as you talk about HBO Max. I am okay with that.
Yeah. I bring that up every week. And I still don't know why I'm not seeing some hot sponsorship dollars. But whatever. It's fine. I'll just keep doing the work for free.
And I don't even think about it that much because I follow several accounts on Instagram that are all Bowie videos, because why wouldn't I?
Obviously.
So I'm always seeing him. Oh. So it doesn't even occur to me sometimes that I'm the only one that is seeing that. Yeah. Because I'm thinking about him all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, you're thinking about him all the time, but that doesn't translate to you talking about him all the time.
True.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you feel comfortable with that.
Well, there you go, listeners. And again, if you're new, the moral of the story is I love David Bowie. I have an obsessive, deep obsession and love for Mr. David Bowie.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that was well stated.
Should I keep talking about it?
Sure. I'm going to let you. I mean, whatever you need to do. Okay, my nonfiction pick this week is a book that I picked because I think this is a topic, when I think about obsession, I think that this is a topic that gets pushed on particularly females a lot.
Ooh.
And I think that this is a topic that no matter how much you try or how advanced you try to be in self-awareness and self-confidence, at some point you become obsessed with this. So this book is called Starvation Mode, a memoir of food, consumption, and control.
Oh, no.
By Alyssa Washuta.
Oh, hey, I know that name. Yeah. She wrote the short story collection that...
Yes, My Body is a Book of Rules. Yep, and I think she has another one coming out, White Magic.
I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this was published in 2015, and this is it's a different format of a book. It's kind of an ebook that you could get for a couple bucks. It was different. I'm not sure if it ever did appear in print or not exactly, if you could get like the physical, but I read it in that form. So on the face, this book is a set of rules or guidelines that the author imposed on herself.
Oh boy.
In order to make her body and kind of really her life take the shape that she wanted. But the rules actually kind of serve to draw the reader into this very deeply personal journey about self-acceptance and kind of how society works against us, particularly in this format. Like I said, I picked this because I think when we talk about obsession, one of the immediate things that comes to my mind is the idea of diet culture or food for women. That
Absolutely.
is an obsession.
Yeah.
And we're taught at a very early age
that it should be an obsession.
Yeah, that we should talk about it. We should think about it. You don't have to look very far to find examples of that. We grew up around that.
Yeah.
Of diets, all those types of things.
And bring a group of women together, and within 5 minutes, there's going to be some talk about fucking diet.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's ironic to me because it all centers around this idea of health or keeping your body a certain way, that we're supposed to protect our bodies from harm. But in reality, it's this way that we ravage our bodies kind of in any way we see fit to get them to fit a certain thing instead of nurturing them and growing them. And, now we know so much more about body neutrality and all of those movements that are so important, but we're still very stuck in the idea of what someone should look like.
Yes.
In the idea that it's okay to make comments about someone else's appearance, that it's okay to have expectations for what someone else wants to look like.
And that generally a certain weight is ugly. Or
yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's an obsession that we're all aware of.
Yeah.
And so it was the perfect pick for this theme because she's really dealing with that on a very personal level and taking you through a journey that she went through and how she got obsessed with it, what she did, and then kind of relating that to life and accepting yourself and how you get out of viewing that rule a certain way. Mm-hmm. It's deep. It's super well written. It's a very quick read, but it really stays with you. I really, really, really enjoyed it. But it also really sticks with you in a way that kind of keeps popping up. And I don't think that there's enough books about that topic. I think there should be tons and tons and tons and tons. So
yeah, I think like you said, as much as maybe body neutrality and other things like that have become more talked about or more seen on Instagram and stuff, there's just as many, committing hard to diet culture over here. I think it's still being counterbalanced. And then companies like Weight Watchers rebranding and saying like, oh, it's fine, wellness.
Yeah,
when it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true too of the actual journey. I think even as a person, you can get to the point where you think, I know that that's not important.
Yeah.
And logically, I know that, but you can still get yourself into thought patterns that teach you the opposite. Mm-hmm. And it's a very hard thing to break. It's sort of like what we talked about with the last pick with motherhood, this idea of never breaking that front. Like that this isn't almost like not breaking the fourth wall. Like, oh, no, we don't need to let anyone know about that. And that's kind of this too, because we're not all willing to just be open and talk about it. Then it becomes the stigma that we allow ourselves to put on other people.
Yeah.
So it's a great read. To me, it fits perfect with the theme of obsession, and it will definitely leave you with some things to think about. I think anyone can relate to it because even if you maybe feel very comfortable in your food journey or your body journey or whatever it may be, I definitely think no matter what, you're human. You've done things before that made you feel a certain way because of what someone else thinks you should be. So.
Yeah. Wow. Great. Like you said, not enough stories like that.
Yeah.
So great to see that. And also, after reading her short story collection, I could see how even format-wise, that could be really, really interesting.
Yeah,
and
she's
powerful.
very creative,
Yeah.
very interesting. I think she takes a lot of risks in her writing that other people maybe wouldn't be willing to, and I think it pays off. Some people can really pull that off, and she's definitely one of them, for
Excellent.
sure. Yeah.
Well, good pick.
Well, thank you.
Guess what? More obsession.
Oh,
Imagine
pop
that.
culture. Yeah.
Pop culture. I don't remember if you've seen this or not. Promising Young Woman.
No, I haven't yet.
Okay.
I have been meaning to. So
Came out early this year
Yes.
on, one of the Amazon Prime, like early kinds of things that you could get. So yes, title is Promising Young Woman. And from the start, we meet Cassie, who is played by Carey Mulligan, who, by the way, is fantastic in everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Also, she's in all sorts of like historical stuff. You don't see her in the present very often. Here you see her in the present. And it's great. So Cassie, she is in a bar and she is so drunk, she's barely coherent. And we can see a group of self-proclaimed nice guys over here. And one of them steps in to help her get home and safe. You can probably guess what's going to happen. But just before it does, as Mr. Nice Guy starts trying to take her clothes off, she stops slurring, she sits up, and she asks, "Hey, what are you doing?" And immediately, like, just white as a sheet, the guy, and then we cut away. Then we see Cassie by day. She used to be in med school, but when her friend was raped and no one believed her, she killed herself. Oh. And after that, Cassie dropped out of med school. She could not see going forward. She didn't trust the school anymore. She didn't trust herself. And right now she's stalled out. She's working at a coffee shop. She doesn't really have any friends. She's living at home with her parents. She doesn't have social life. Yeah. Instead, she's doing this nightly routine where she goes out to bars, pretends to be drunk, sees who's going to step up and be an asshole, and then she confronts them to see what they'll do. Then Cassie runs into a former med school classmate, and it's a guy, and she finds herself torn because she really likes him. But it also reminds her of what happened at med school. So she starts reconnecting with the real culprits. The girl in their class who sided with the rapist, the administrator who refused to punish him, who's played by Connie Britton, by the way.
Ooh.
And even eventually, the guys themselves. This is a wild, wild ride with a very unexpected ending. I did not see that coming at all.
Okay.
I still think about it a lot.
Really? God, I need to watch this. What am I doing with
I
my
don't
life?
know. But I chose it for this theme because I think Cassie is absolutely obsessed with trying to get a sense of justice for her friend. As weird as it is, just trying to call guys out on their shit and try to like confront them, make them see what they're doing. She's sort of addicted, and addiction isn't healthy. She's addicted to this. But also, I think I chose this because we as a society are obsessed with the idea of promising young men, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are the young men. A woman accuses him of sexual assault, and when women stand up and tell their stories, all you hear is, "What are you doing? Don't ruin this promising young man's future."
Oh my gosh.
So our justice system is putting women on trial, right? Like, you're lying, you're trying to get money, you're trying to get attention, you're trying to ruin this promising young man over here. What are you doing? The movie takes this on. I mean, the title is brilliant.
Yeah.
And also the idea that guys have about themselves. Like, everyone thinks they're a nice guy. Every guy thinks like, "Oh man, yeah, I'm great. This is fine." But when it comes down to it, are they?
Yeah.
In case you think this is off base, by the way, I read an article where Carey Mulligan, the actress, she said there were some prominent reviews of this movie that focused on her appearance, basically saying like, "Oh, is she really hot enough to pull in all these guys night after night?" And she's like, "Wait a second. Are you seeing what you're doing right here? Are you seeing like how this is related to the movie? What in the actual..."
Oh my God.
Another obsessive element of this was written and directed by Emerald Fennell, who plays Camilla Parker Bowles on The Crown.
Oh,
picture her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she is the writer and director of this.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I loved this. So when I was reading this article, she described how the idea came to her. Like 5 or 6 years ago, she's at a dinner party. And there's a woman that comes in and she's like, "Oh man, I just had this super creepy encounter on the tube. Like this guy doing this, And the girls are all like, oh man, gross. And the guys are like, what? And the women, of course, are like shocked. Like, why are you shocked? What world are you living in? So then they keep telling some stories, and the guys are just dumbfounded. Like, they've never heard anything like this in their lives. Some of it, I wonder if they're just like, pretending, oh, I'm a nice guy. I would never think of such a thing.
Right. Yeah.
But she was so shocked by the lack of shock, or by the shock, of the guys, that she was like, there's something here. Yeah. And there is. And it's a movie called Promising Young Woman.
That's amazing.
And it's really good. Like I said, you just don't know where it's going.
Sounds amazing. It made me think, what do you think is the line between, you were talking about obviously addiction's not healthy, and she's kind of, gets obsessed with doing this thing night after night at the bars. What do you think the line is between like being dedicated and persistent and like addiction and obsession?
I think here anyway, it's where you can't do anything else with your life. Like you're dedicating all your energy to this thing. Like, cause everything in her life is now about this, where she can't think about the future. She's just living in the now. She's very obsessed with, this moment and can't move on from it.
Yeah.
Like, kind of the stalled out factor, I think, is another. Yeah, that's what Ziggy said.
Ziggy's
saying not all men. And I'm saying, Ziggy, stop it.
Stop it. That's
not
helpful.
It's not helpful.
Not helpful.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's a really good way to put it. Like, you can't do anything else, because sometimes, we hear about stories of like very persistent dedication that end up well, but someone else could say that's an obsession,
Yes.
So,
and I think Ziggy's back.
Ziggy's back. He wants to do the same thing as he did last time, which is somehow stop the recording.
Yeah, there you go.
Goodbye.
Oh boy. Just threw a mouse and he chased it. Because
kind of illustrated our point.
He did illustrate our point. I thought this was relevant too because this week I saw on social media some trending stuff about like not all men, where something happened, and again men are all up in arms about like, oh, we're not all rapists. We don't live in a rape culture. Okay.
And I saw something really good to counter that on social media on the iWay account.
Ooh.
And it was a cartoon, and I apologize. We'll have to link to it because I don't remember the author who made it. It was a female, about the not all men.
Yeah.
And it said, it was comparing it to ticks. Not all ticks carry Lyme disease.
Oh boy, yeah.
But Lyme disease is scary enough and happens enough that when you're out in the woods, you have to assume that all ticks carry Lyme disease.
Oh my God, that's
You have
brilliant.
to operate as though they do, because if they're on you, you need to get it off so that you don't get Lyme disease. You don't have the opportunity to wait and test that tick and see if it has Lyme disease. It's the same idea.
Yes.
We understand that it's not all men, but when you make the point to say it's not all men, you're diminishing the point that there are men that are doing that.
Exactly.
And it's enough that we have to be scared when we're in those situations.
Yes, it gives us a level of wariness that we always have to operate at anywhere that men don't understand.
So yes, we know it's not all men, just like not all ticks have Lyme disease, but it's enough that we have to protect ourselves.
Oh man, that's brilliant.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That just really made so much sense to me. I thought that was one of the best arguments I saw, not arguments, counterpoint to the whole not all men.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of proving the point when you start going in on not all men.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Okay, well, so my pop culture pick this week is something, honestly, that I'm obsessed with. And it's just something that brings me joy. And it's light and it's funny. And I look forward to it every week.
I can't wait.
And it's the podcast called Who Weekly.
Oh.
And their tagline is everything you need to know about the celebrities you don't. And the podcast is hosted by Bobby Finger and Lindsay Weber, and they are good friends, and it feels like you're just listening to them talk. But the whole basis of the show, they have what they call who's and thems. So thems are your A-listers. Like, we know who Tom Hanks is. We know who Carey Mulligan is.
Yeah.
We know these people. They tell you stories about the who's. Like when you're standing in the checkout line and you see a magazine and you're like, who is that? These are the people they're telling you stories about, which first are always more hilarious.
Yes.
Because they're not polished. They don't have those PR teams, so they're doing stupid stuff.
Oh, my God.
They play you clips. They talk about it. It is an hour of just nothing that is just everything you want it to be. It's hilarious. Most of the time, there are times where I truly laugh out loud just from the things that they're saying, because you get the same feeling, There's some fun things they do. Like Tuesday is their regular weekly episode, and then Friday is what they call their call-in episode. So after Tuesday, you can call in and on a line and say something like about something they said, and then they play some of those clips and respond to them on Fridays. It's amazing. These two also frequently write for Slate, Vice, New York Times, just about that same kind of idea. I love the idea of the who them. Like they'll ask people that all the time. Like, do you think this is a who or a them? They also do these great questions like, does a them know who this who is? Mm-hmm. So one of the ones that they had recently that I loved was, does Queen Elizabeth know what chicken strips are? Chicken strips to them are a who, but Queen Elizabeth, this is them. Do you think she understands? And I mean, they did a deep dive that you would never think was possible about chicken strips and Queen Elizabeth, and I was here for it. It was hilarious, and I loved it.
I mean, did they answer the question? Do you think?
Yeah, apparently, I'm not going to remember the name now, but they're called something different. So they felt very confident that she's aware of chicken strips, but felt very confident that she probably hasn't actually eaten them.
That's
because
probably
she
true.
prefers roast chicken, and they cook for her. So
yeah, they got a full cooking
they don't
team.
She doesn't have the need to just get chicken strips because there's no other option.
She's not driving through Chick-fil-A.
No, but they did say that there's some really famous chicken restaurant that's like a mile from the palace or something. So was one of their pieces of evidence that she has to know.
She has to know
about this chicken dish.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. It's a deep dive, and I can't get enough of it. And for me, I am now at the age in my life where I often see musicians or actors or new people on the scene that I'm like, I have no idea who that is. Never heard that name.
Nope.
One, it's great justification when no one else has either. Or B, I find out tangentially who they are or what they're up to. And it's funny. I mean, they're focusing on just funny, goofy things. It's a great break for me. It's something I can listen to while I'm doing other things, and it always lightens my mood. I always get a laugh, and I'm obsessed with it. And they're obsessed with bringing it and talking about celebrities, and it's hilarious. And they are actually friends, so they have a really good banter and some funny stories in between.
So like us.
Yes, that's what it reminds me of. If you like what we have going, you know, where you just feel like you're here with us, you're going to like that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to like it. It's funny. It's great. They have been doing a deep dive on The Masked Singer. I don't even watch The Masked Singer, but it's hilarious. And Lindsay is taking a strong stance that she's pissed off because they're putting thems on there. And it was supposed to be a Who show of people that you would never guess would be in there. So apparently Kermit the Frog was in one of the costumes recently, and they were like, that's a costume in a costume.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
But then they decided that was genius, and I kind of had to agree with them.
Okay.
Costume in a costume is... Who saw that coming?
Do they describe, like, if someone is a who, can they attain them status?
Yes, they talk a lot about that, about when these things cross over.
What's the barrier?
And or when it goes the other way.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's true.
Them, that becomes a who.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very validating because there's so many, like, when they announce SNL musical stuff, like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Or, like, even we were talking about Celeste Barber.
Yeah.
And she's always taking, like, videos from other Instagram people. I never know who they are.
Yeah. No.
So,
No, it's very fulfilling and it's funny. And I don't know what it is about Lindsay's laugh, but it is contagious. When she really laughs, I can't get enough of it. And Bobby plays like a really good straight guy to her sometimes. Like the things he points out when she says something ridiculous and he just repeats it. It's comedy gold.
That's fantastic.
It's wonderful. So you're not getting anything deep.
No.
Don't go there thinking that you're getting news. Okay. That's not what you're getting. You're getting fun.
But that's a great way to end the episode.
Yes.
Something light.
Fun. Yeah. And light and hilarious.
I mean, we ran through a gamut of obsession.
Yeah.
From dangerous obsession to hilarious obsession.
Yeah.
Into rabbit holes that you may or may not want to go down.
I think you should go down them.
Okay. All of them?
Why not?
I mean, there's some rabbit holes that take you to like white nationalism.
Well, yeah,
and stuff.
I was going to back up because we did
or
talk
down
about
to QAnon.
Yeah.
You don't want to go that route. No.
I mean, I guess if you're mentally sound enough that you know you're not going to get sucked in, you could just for the comedic value of it.
That's true. Yeah.
Because there are times that I think someone really, you believe that.
Yeah, you believe that.
Like you legitimately believe that.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked. Shocked.
I think I'm almost worried about those kinds of things because like I have strong opinions, but then I know I'm gullible and I'm susceptible. I'm like, I can't.
I'm more worried about it from an aspect of like, okay, I'm going to go down that rabbit hole and then all my ads are going to be like for Viking helmets.
Yes.
And I'm going to be like, on my phone, someone's going to look over and be like, were you searching? Like,
were you at the Capitol?
Were you
a
Yeah. Is that an American flag cape? What are you doing? And I don't want that.
No one wants that.
No.
That's not a good thing. No.
And if I wear a Viking helmet,
Things have gone awry.
I'm probably at like medieval times drinking beer out of it.
I would hope so. Because if you're not, we need an intervention of some kind.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to tell Mike, like, listen,
what is going on?
Yeah.
Trust me, if I had a Viking helmet, he's probably the first one that's doing an intervention. Like, no.
Like,
I'll deal with a lot.
Not happening.
No.
Yeah.
Not funny. Yeah. And no. Just no.
Well, good. I'm glad he has, clear boundaries.
Yeah, there's boundaries, I think. Mm-hmm. What we don't have boundaries on.
No.
To be clear.
Lord.
Is that we like to bring you an episode every week.
You're damn right we do.
We're obsessed with it.
We are obsessed.
We're obsessed with Wednesdays.
We're obsessed with Wednesdays. We're obsessed with books. We're obsessed with pop culture.
And bringing them to you. We're obsessed with you, listeners.
We are so obsessed with you.
We're obsessed with the energy you provide. And I would say I'm obsessed with acai.
I was going to say, but you know what? My obsession.
Not this week.
They're stringing us along, and I don't like it.
I don't like it either, but we'll recover.
We'll recover.
In the meantime,
happy reading.